Who are we together? That's a good question.
That's a deep question.
Yeah.
Mm, you know.
I don't know if there's a straightforward answer to that question. Um, who are we together? To me, I just
Mm,
think we're just, I guess, servants of God. That's about it. I mean, because we don't really have a defined title together. Um,
I mean, we're friends.
yeah, yeah, we friends. We
We're motivators.
we encourage each other.
We encourage other
Yeah.
couples.
I think if you want to say who we are together, we're a team. That would be
Yeah.
about the best thing I could say. Um, Separately, um,
Mm.
goofy and childish, I would say probably. Um, we have a very weird sense of humor, and we both kind of understand that it's eclectic,
Hmm.
and everybody might not get it, but we get it. So there are things that might be hilarious to us that other folks would look at us and be like, "Y'all are so silly, y'all so crazy," and we just be laughing, and it works. So yeah, I guess that's kind of sum up who we are together and who we are separately. You
Yeah.
think?
I mean, we have our own things, our
Yeah,
own likes,
our
our
own.
dislikes, the things we love to do and the things that we enjoy. We don't enjoy everything together. Like I hate what he watches on TV and he hates what I watch on TV. So,
But I endure it when I want to be in her company.
yeah, same. Mhm.
But we don't. There, we do have our own separate interests. We have our own separate lives that does not involve each other. You know, she's really big on certain things, and I'm really big on other things that have absolutely nothing to do with me. She'll say, "Hey, I'm about to go do something." Like, "Hey, have fun," and don't even think nothing else about it. Like, "Hey, just be safe. Let me know when you're on your way back."
Mhm.
She does the same thing, and so it's not like one of those things where, as a couple, oh, we have to be glued to each other all the time, and everything we do has to be together. We do a lot of things together, but not everything. We
Yeah,
have our own outside circle of friends. She has a circle of friends that are not mine, and I have a circle of friends that are not hers.
yeah,
Wow. I love that. I love how it's about allowing each other to be. I love that. Love that. All right. So tell us, let's back up a little bit. How did you meet? And what was the first impression of your spouse? And you can do his and hers versions. That's just
There
fine.
is only one version. There's no two versions. This is only one version.
So we met because of his sister April Rowland. Um, she and I were pen pals since we were 12 years old.
Mhm.
I started a little program because I went to a small congregation and there was really no youth there, and I wanted to meet other youth who were also in Christ. So I sent out letters to churches of Christ all over the U.S. and she was one of the people that responded. And so we were 12-year-olds writing each
You
other.
you dating yourself.
Well, yeah. Putting them in the mail, excited to get letters from each other, pictures from each other. Then when I went to Alabama State, we were talking on the phone one day, and she said, it was my sophomore year, and she said, my
Mm-hmm.
brother's there now. Who is he? And she told me who he was, gave me his number, and called the dorm. And um, I don't think he was there that time, but somehow we got in touch with each other.
She left a message, and the people on my dorm left a note and her name on my dorm room door. You know how when you got the little whiteboard for messages, they left it on my door. I called back, and they hounded me. Oh man, you got an upperclassman calling you. She's staying dorm, blah 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 blah. And I'm like, I don't know who this is. I have absolutely no idea who this is. So I called her. We started talking. Um, Thought she was a little weird because she knew things about me and my family that I didn't know that anybody in college at that time knew anything about me. She was naming my sister. She knew my mama's name. She knew my granddad. And I'm like, who is this girl? And she kept saying my sister. So I said, let me call you back. So my sister at the time was attending UAB. And I called her and said, hey, do you know this girl named Tangela Wright? She was like, oh, yeah, I told her to call you. I'm like, tell me next time. Because I had no idea who she was. And she just out the blue called me like I'm supposed to know her.
You were.
I didn't know.
You were supposed to know me.
Nah. And the first official meeting, I went to the grocery store for her because she wanted some cranberry juice because her side was hurting. And she didn't have no car, but I did. So I went to the grocery store and got her some cranberry juice.
They asked for that part.
Well, that's part of the story. And so then after that, we just kind of, hey and bye on campus. It wasn't really.
Yeah, until we started going to church
together.
And then I don't know. We really didn't get along too well. I mean, the first time I met April was at an Alabama State UAB game, and
the next year
I was riding with him, and we got into an argument, and he stopped to put me out the car on the side of the interstate. Yeah. And yeah, I didn't like him at all. And so when we finally met, his sister, his mom, after the game, we went out to eat, and his mom.
I wasn't there.
He wasn't there.
I was gone with the band. I was at the time I marched in the band at Alabama State, and I was gone with the band. I was like, "Nah, y'all can take her with y'all. Take her with y'all. I'm gonna go over here. I'll see y'all when we get home."
Yeah. So while we were eating that night, his mom was like, "Do you have a boyfriend?" I was like, "No." She was like, "Well, what about?" They called him Kojak right then. "What about Kojak?" I was like, "I don't want him." She was like, "What's wrong with my baby? Ain't nothing wrong with my baby. I said, "Ain't nobody say anything was wrong with him, but he talked too doggone much." No, I don't want him. So that was, the first little interaction with that. And we, like I said, we started going to church together, and
we just kind of started hanging out.
Yeah, friendship was created. We started hanging
out, and by her being my sister's friend, it was more we were just hanging out, whatever. Then I think it was one instance where she had told me that a guy had tried to rape her on campus, and she told me that story, and I was like, okay. And I think I vaguely knew who the guy was. I didn't think I really knew who he was. But eventually, one day we were standing out of the student union. It was her, Shell, and somebody else.
Yeah, just
about 3 of our friends. And we were standing out there, and she said, "There go the guy." And I literally got riled up, and I was upset because you just don't do that to people. And so I was literally about to go beat them up, and they stopped me from doing it. And so her friends thought that moment was this moment, this eye-breaking moment that, oh, he's just madly in love with you because he's trying to defend you because this guy tried to essay you. And I'm like, no, that really wasn't it. It was just, as a young man growing up, just don't tolerate that stuff. So I think that kicked off some thoughts in some people's heads.
And I
don't know. Could have been, but I think I don't even say it was with you. I think it might have been with her friends at the time. But then we started going to church, and we would go after church on Sundays to go get something to eat and just a little stuff like that. And so eventually one Sunday you had to go out of town for something. And I was
my grandmother had passed away. And so I was going home to bury my grandmother. But by that time, for like a month, I had started liking him. I don't know why, but I did. But it could have also been because my friend had started liking him. I don't know. That could have been the reason why. I don't really remember how or why, but either way around, our whole circle of friends, we were all together, but they wanted us to be together instead of her being with him. And so that Sunday, they had told me that they was going to keep them apart. They said, because when you leave, she's going to be all up in his face, and we're not having that. And so at church that Sunday, they kept them separated. They sat between them.
It sat on both sides of me. They wouldn't even
Yeah,
let me do nothing. Couldn't
yeah.
even go to my car by myself.
They told me, they said, we got him, we got him. We ain't gonna let her, we ain't gonna let her talk to him. She just have to, sit somewhere else or something like that. But I still hadn't told him anything. But one night after worship service, Brother Bernard Gaston was doing a gospel meeting for us at church, and they was like, you gonna tell him or not? And I think it was Lisa Snell. She was one of the ones in on it too, but she had told me, either you gonna say something or you ain't gonna say something. You just gonna let that good man walk away. You ain't gonna say nothing. That ain't making no sense. Why you scared? So that night, normally we would leave and say, love you like a sister. And he would say, I would say, love you like a brother. And he would say, love you like a sister. But this night, instead, when he hugged me and he was leaving, he said, I love you like a sister. But I said, I love you too, but not like a brother. And he just stopped. Like the whole world stopped. And I was so scared. I said, there went our friendship. But it didn't. He went to the car, and he just stood there. He never drove off. And I was so afraid of what was about to happen. But by the time,
come here.
Yeah, he called, Terrells, come here. I was like, oh, Lord Jesus. I didn't want to go, but I did. And he was like, what we're going to do about this? I was like, I don't know. He was like, get in. Got in the car.
We drove around, started talking, and
Yeah.
somehow formed a relationship. Don't even remember how it actually happened. Like, don't even remember if there was an official, we're gonna start dating. Don't remember if, we never said any of that type of thing. I don't think that ever came in. We just started dating, like literally. And
but we was also in the same song group. We sang with Renaissance.
And so we were kind of attached at the hip anyway. We were always around each other for the most part, except for classes. And then it kind of went from there till a year and a half later, 2 years later, we were married.
Something like
that. And whoo.
Yeah. It was 3 years later.
It was that long?
Maybe. No, that's from the beginning. Yeah, about 1 or 2. You're right.
Yeah, it was like, we were still young and in college when we got married.
Well, I had graduated.
I'm sorry.
I'm the cougar in this relationship. I had graduated, It's waiting on him.
So that's it. That's kind of how we started this journey.
Okay. So tell us about how, this is so good. I love this story. Ooh, this is good. So tell us about how you started to get serious. How did you, when you said, let's get married, what happened that sort of led to the let's get married?
Ooh.
I think we had gotten to a point where we didn't want to go home. Like if he was over, I didn't want him to go home. He didn't want to go home.
Yeah.
We just didn't want to go home.
Yeah, it was
that's a problem,
Yeah, it was just getting to the point to where we were spending so much time, and leaving each other was kind of problematic, to say the least.
Yeah.
And so we kind of made up our mind that we needed to get married, because we knew, one, we were going to do some stuff we had no business doing. And we both was at that, I think, at that point where we just really didn't feel like doing a whole lot of dating and, going on and doing all this stuff. And we knew early on that we were kind of a really good fit. Were we a perfect match? No. But we were a good fit. We didn't match on everything. We had different upbringings. Our home lives were different. Which we saw that early on. So we did see each other's home life, real early in our relationship. So we just decided that we didn't want to be out there no more.
Good. I love that part where you said we didn't want to leave. And when we realized that it was hard leaving each other, we needed to do something about that. I love that. Okay. So the next question is, I want you to think back on some of the expectations that you had before marriage, and how have those expectations changed now? Expectations for each other, expectations for yourself.
That's it's hard to quantify that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna say why. Because I think before you get married, you have this fantasy and this fairy tale of what marriage is supposed to be like. Then you get married, and your whole world literally shakes because it's nothing like what you would probably imagine, and it is nothing like what the world typically tells you marriage is. You know, forever you get the storybook, oh, and they fell in love happily ever after, and and oh, she met her Prince Charming, and that's all for selling books. That is not real. I think our expectation. I don't even really know what my expectation was. I didn't have any for what marriage was. I think the only expectation I had was, and I told her was that if you decide to leave me, if you pack your bags, pack mine too. Because wherever you're going, I'm going. That was it. That was literally the only expectation I had before marriage.
Yeah, I mean, I think I expected it to be a lot of women's work, cooking, cleaning, that type of thing. I thought, you know, that's what a lot of it was. I really also thought we'd always be hugged up and booed up together. Like I just thought it was just gonna be just this great life because we both was in the church and we both we knew that that was gonna be our foundation and God our foundation. We gonna be just lovey dovey. No, get away from me. But not only that, time changes us.
Oh yeah.
Time has changed us.
I mean,
a lot of things that I expected out of him
20 years ago.
Yeah, I realized that it didn't even make sense. Like I really believe that men like doing things like opening jars for us. So I would pretend to be weak.
Oh God.
And I found out that that's not what I like doing. You got to learn how to do some things for yourself, kind of thing. So I think age and wisdom.
Yeah, because I think let's put in perspective. When we got married, I was 21, she was 22. So we were really green as far as understanding what it was like to be an adult.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it now. We have a 23-year-old and a 22-year-old, so we have kids that were our age when we got married. And just looking at it now,
looking at them, thinking
Lord we
Jesus,
were that age when
they had to get married right now.
No. So it was a lot of learning.
Learn to be adults, and that was
before you even
figuring out who you are as an adult was hard while being married.
And then you're talking about trying to figure out each other, because we still didn't know each other like we thought we knew each other. You know the as they say, the representative. You don't know the person because you're not living with them. And in our first year, we had such a traumatic event because we lost a child within the first year, and it made a lot of those expectations go out the window. So you have to deal with the grief and the recovery and the trauma and all of that. And so you're dealing with that literally year one. And you haven't had time to really, focus on your mate, because now you're so focused on staying afloat, let alone the fact that we didn't have no money.
Yeah.
And we barely could keep the lights on from month to month. So, it was a lot of things that were going on year one to maybe year 5 that literally would be traumatic for a lot of other people, and they probably wouldn't have survived it.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Just knowing, like, the growing up together, but then also, going through things together and out on the other side. But it sounds like life will teach you to let go of some of those expectations that we have.
Real fast.
Yeah.
Oh, it don't take long. Because you'll realize that person that you love so much doesn't have all of the qualities you thought they had while you were dating them.
Mm-hmm.
And you will learn that they have some annoyances that really drive you crazy that you thought you could just love past until now all of a sudden this is every day. Because it was cool when they did them and it was cute and you went home. But now they doing them and you at home. And you didn't realize how much they did it. You know, and that's what it is. And now you gotta be like, oh, I married this person, so I gotta love the quirks too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I gotta love the fact that they don't clean up like you want them to, or they don't cook like you want. They don't they don't do this like you want them to. You gotta learn to love that stuff because you didn't buy or you didn't marry into just the lovey-dovey part.
and being young, I thought I did.
Well, I think we both did.
Yeah, but I learned, immediately we were, well, when we got to Atlanta, we ended up in a marriage class, and I think that marriage class like really kept us, afloat as we went through the different ups and downs of marriage, and then having kids and things like that. We learned how to deal with some of those annoyances. One of the things that I would always do when he would continuously leave his things where he shouldn't leave his things, and I would we were taught, as wives, learn to pick him up in love. And I'm like, I'm not picking up after him. He a grown doggone man. He know how to pick up his stuff. And Sister Paula would say, you pick it up and say, I love my husband. Every time you pick something up or every time you do something for your spouse that annoys you, you pick it up in love. And so I would walk through the house picking up his things saying, I love my husband. I love my husband. I love my husband. And in turn, Joyous would help me and say, I love my daddy. I love my dad. I said, yeah, baby, we got to love him because he is driving both of us crazy, leaving his stuff in the floor, So that's how, one of the things I loved him through his mess, even when it was stuff that just would make me want to choke him, make me want to yeah, kick him to the curb and go back home. You have to love people through because guess what? We all got something. Although I feel like I'm great, I don't feel like any of the things that I do should annoy him because I'm just that great. Just that great, just that cute. Nothing should annoy him, but his stuff annoys me. And so we both have to learn to love each other through our mess because we got some very annoying things that we do to each other, and we're learning to love each other through our mess.
Our mess, yeah. Because I think when we get married, most of the times we take each other so seriously, and we think that everything has to be so cut and dry. We think everybody has definite roles, and we think that everybody. Well, I think you do have roles. Let me clarify that. There are definitely roles to play in a marriage, but they're not always cut and dry. The lines blur. I think about it. You look at now. When we first got married, we were on those traditional roles of she cooks, she cleans, I do housework, I do that type of thing. That was typically our roles when we first got married. I think now I do more of the cleaning and housework than she does. I do a lot of those things, and sometimes situationally those things will happen because of life circumstances, health issues, things like that. And if you get so stuck into the fact that you're only going to do this, then it ain't gonna work.
Yeah.
It just ain't gonna work because our roles have in some way flipped.
Yeah, but one of the things we did do, I think we did well. We talked about some of those expectations before we got married, especially when it concerns the kids, because I knew from experience with my nieces and nephews, there's just no way a mother can do all that she does, works, and then come home and take care of the kids and everything that they need, and the household affairs. But we agreed, if I do their hair, he would get them dressed
and get them fed.
and get them fed. So that was a compromise that really helped. We knew what we were looking for in each other in terms of raising the kids and that kind of thing.
I just knew I had the better end of the deal because eventually they was gonna grow up and learn how to put on their own clothes and feed themselves.
You see what I'm talking about? This is what I have to deal with, the mess. So I mean, we've changed, we've evolved, we've become, I can assure you in that we've become two different people in our 40s than we were in our 20s. We are not the same person or the same people that we were.
Oh, we were definitely not the same. 21-year-old me, I couldn't, no. Not at all.
Yeah.
Beautiful. This is beautiful. So the next question is you kind of touched on it, but I'd love for you to go deeper. But how did you all cope with challenges and decide not to walk away?
Nothing but the Lord.
Well, we did come to a point at one point,
yeah,
where we were ready to walk away. I mean, we were
moments away.
Yeah, it was like it was just over. It was done. But I think a lot of that had to do with my mental health that had not been diagnosed at that time. And I'm understanding that now, that a lot of that was not having handled the trauma of my past, and him having to live through that little girl that never healed, and trying to help her, and she didn't know that she needed help. So as he's trying to pull that little girl out of that hell, she was pulling him in further and further in. So we realized that, and my first thought was, we got to get therapy. We've got to have marriage therapy, and we did. We went to therapy for about a year.
About a year.
And it took time. It took intense time.
And I think
we didn't want to go sometimes.
We had to get over ourselves. Like, you had to put your own ego aside, because there are certain things that each person has things that they don't want to give up. And when you have those things that you don't want to give up, you will tend to not accept the therapeutic help that even if you're going to therapy, you'll be closed down to it because you're not letting your pride go, and you're not understanding that the other person needs certain things, or that you need certain things. And so, because if you don't see those needs, then you're never going to heal. It's never going to fix itself. It's never going to get corrected, because you're too stubborn to say, yes, this is a problem, or yes, I need to correct this, or yes, I need to do X, Y, and Z. Because when we had our big blow up, there were a lot of things that I was just disappointed in, because I felt like I wasn't being heard. I felt like I was not being, I was not a focal point in the house that everything else was. And so when you start coping all of those things together, and then you start feeling like you're not worth it, then it creates a problem. But the problem was also communication, because I was never saying it. I kind of just kept it to myself, because I thought I was the man, and being the man, I'm supposed to take all that on the chin, and that kind of stuff. So again, those, I guess, some of those expectations you have at 21 that you don't think about, that nobody tells you, especially us in the Black community. They don't tell young men that you can express yourself, and you need to talk about how you feel, and you need to let your partner know that you don't like certain things, and that there's certain things that they do annoy you, and this thing or other. We're just kind of taught, well, that's just her, let it go, keep it moving. And that's kind of what festered in our marriage for years. But we didn't know it was sitting there as a ticking time bomb, because nobody ever taught us. Nobody ever told us. We just look at other people's relationships and we thought that they were perfect.
Mm-hmm.
We will see older couples that have been married for 25, 30 years, and we thought, oh man, look how great they are, man. They just got it.
Not considering
the work that went
time.
into it and the years, the stuff that you don't see. You're not in people's houses. And we'll tell you up front, man, you see us at church, you'll swear everything great. Not knowing that, I don't even want to sit by her today. But we smiling. Hey, good morning. How y'all doing? Good. Blessed be the name of the Lord. and then when you got in the car, you don't even want her to touch you. I mean, it happens.
It's real.
It's just that's marriage, and it's not. It's nobody tells us the ugly part. They always tell us the pretty part. They always say, "Oh, you just gonna love him. He gonna look in your eyes." And,
stars
all that stuff. You get the fairy tale side of marriage, but nobody ever tells people there are gonna be days you truly don't like her. Like you don't like her. You don't want her in the room with you. You don't want him in the room with you. You don't want to see him. You don't even want to hear him breathe. You don't. It's just that's what life is. And I equate it to friends. There are times you have friends that you don't want to see. They done something to you that aggravates you. You still a friend. You still love them, but you don't want to be around them. Guess what? That's why I think every couple needs their own space. You need to go do what you do by yourself, and she need to stay in another room. He need to leave and you stay in the room. I mean,
you just need space.
It's one of those things that nobody tells married people that want to be married or even married couples that they need that. Because you will literally be like thinking you gotta be all up on them, never forget that. But we thought that in the beginning. I mean, literally, we thought that in the beginning that marriage was, there were a lot of friends that I gave up for my marriage. That I hate that I did, but I did it under false pretenses because I thought, as the man, you can't have these friends if your wife don't approve, if your wife don't like them. Nah.
But what we also didn't realize was that those friends could have been introduced and been my friends, and it could have,
And even them not being her friends, should have just known them.
Acquaintances
or known them,
or
just,
whatever.
Hey, this is Twan friend or whatever the case may be. I mean, none of those things were taught to us. You just get these perceptions that,
And that was one of the things that I did get the perception of. Once a man is married, they don't have no friends.
Don't have no friends like that.
Not those, especially not unmarried friends. That was what I was given. And so when we were married and he had these friends out there, I was like, that's not what we doing. Right. Kind of thing, so.
And that sets a bad precedence because, and I think sometimes we forget that people have friends don't mean that their friends are, because if they didn't love you, then they wouldn't have entered into this relationship with you. If they didn't care about you, they wouldn't have entered into this relationship with you. While, yes, they had friends, but those friends are, they're vested in them. They're part of them. And so when the person you fell in love with, remember, he or she is that person because of the friends that they have. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some friends that I am glad that I left where they were because they were kind of bad for me. It was good for me to see that. But I probably saw it based on our relationship, and things that they would probably ask me to do, and I'd have cut them off on my own terms versus cutting them off simply because I got married. Because that's just not a good way to do it. And so, I just, that's just one of those
live and learn. Live and learn kind of things.
Because some of them, I hate that I did cut them off because some of them are really good people and I was really good friends with them. And, and some of them trying to repair some of those relationships now. But, you lose years and it's hard sometimes, but, you live and you learn.
That's good. So keep your friends. All right. So, what role does God have within your marriage? And you can go anywhere with that.
Mm. The foundation.
How about I say the role? I think you both parties have to have a good understanding of how God is going to play into your marriage. It can't be. I ain't gonna say it can't. I don't think it's wise for God to have more role for one than He does for the other. I think they both people have to understand how important God is in the relationship, and that you have to um, keep God so centered. You know, we always say in front. I rather say centered because everything you do should revolve around God. You know, we did a lot of stuff together in the church, and which was a lot of our activities for a long time, like a long time. Like I said, we sung in a singing group together. I was a youth minister at one point. Several points. I was assistant minister at one point. I mean, so you have all of these things that we've done over the years that that were God focused, and it helped. It helped in the hard times. It literally helped, to sit back and you lean on that notion that God put this together, and you gotta, put your ego and your pride aside because, God don't want you to do this. Literally kept us from probably getting divorced, honestly. Because if we would just said, whatever, we would like, it was a day, we was like, okay, we're good, we're ready to call it quits. I mean, and then when I say call it quits, to the point where we actually told the kids, look, we're about to leave, about to split up. Y'all gonna stay here, and I'll be back to come do it. I mean, literally, that's where it got to. That point. And if it wasn't for God, then it would not have stayed. It would literally happen, and we wouldn't even be here today. I mean, we would have been and went our separate ways. But but it does take that P word we don't like to say, which is patience. Yeah, that's a dirty word in our house. Because we know what it brings. But you have to, you have to keep God at the forefront. And more importantly, you have to keep prayer active in your relationship because
yeah. The best part of God in my relationship when I have to, tell him what the Lord say, what does the Lord.
Up. Oh no, she loves you.
The Bible said that you should show due benevolence. Like, wait a minute.
And I'd be like, and the Bible says women should remain silent. And now don't get me wrong, we will take scripture and use it all out of context. Just to get on each other's nerves.
What's yours is mine, and what's mine is mine. What book chapter and verse? Book chapter and verse.
We'll do that all the time. And the funny part is we don't just do it with us, we do it with our kids too. Like, children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right.
Right. What did I tell you to do? But mommy, I'm not doing that. That's a sin.
Yeah, it's funny, that when God is that central, you can do that. You literally can do it and do it in every aspect, and know that the other one gonna pull it out. And then when the other one pull it out, they get mad because you pulled it out. You're like, no, but you love bringing the Bible into this. So no, don't be trying to bring the Bible in. It's convenient for you. Take it, take it now. So it's so it's pivotal. It's pivotal. You gotta have them, and you gotta
You love with him, you laugh.
Yeah, but
with
you
him.
can't take it so serious that you're so strict on yourself and you're so restrictive of yourself that you can't have fun. Mm-hmm. You gotta be able to laugh, and you gotta be able to laugh at yourself and at each other. We laugh. Oh my God, we had about 15 this morning, and as you can see, they're still going
at my expense.
You did it, not me.
But yeah, God He is our foundation, our central, Yep.
Amen. I love that. Keeping God central, not just at the front, but center, everything centered around him. I love that. Y'all are so much fun. I love it. I love it.
You would hate to be in the room with us.
I don't know. I think I would love it. So tell us, how would your married self advise your single self on desiring a godly marriage?
First of all, I'll say wait.
Yeah.
Wait. If we probably both had a chance to do it again, we wouldn't have done it at 21 and 22. No. There are a lot of life that we probably missed because we were so concerned about each other, and we was raising children when we were still kids. We were worried about financial responsibilities, about stuff that we shouldn't have, been worried about so early. I think people, especially in church and society in general, we have this stigma about getting married later in life. I don't know what it is, but if you ask all the people who got married early, they'll tell you, no, wait, live your life, get some goals accomplished, do something.
Wait.
There's nothing wrong with dating or trying to find, but if I had to tell my single self something, I'm like, dude, say no. Yeah. Go date somebody else. See if this one is actually the one for you. I mean, and that doesn't mean any little of her. That doesn't say that I don't love her and that our relationship is not good. Sure. It just means that if I was to tell from my 46-year-old self to my 21-year-old self, hey, bruh, walk away. Go do something else.
One of the bad things, and one thing that I have really drilled into my girls, and I think we did a pretty good job of it, is making certain that as women, understanding that our worth is not diminished because we are not married and we don't have a husband.
Yes.
And I believe because I felt so worthless and it had just been shoved down my throat for so long that there was something wrong with me if I did not have a man that wanted to be with me, that I was like just urgently searching for marriage. Like just it was just like at the core of my being that I had to get married very soon, because I already felt so worthless. And that's one of the things that we have taught and we have drilled into our girls and to this day, and to other people, our girls 22 and 19, and neither one has ever been on a date. They have never had a boyfriend, and they be like, no. They like completely serious. No, and we have to say it's not. Some people say, girl, you just don't know they doing it behind your back. Not these two. Yeah. We're so close to them that they freely tell us everything. And sometimes daddy said, that's too much. Don't tell me everything. They literally they don't care.
But they've been like that. And I think it's because of the way we nurtured them as children. We didn't sugarcoat stuff with them. We didn't hide stuff from them. They saw our relationship, good, bad, and indifferent. And we, even though I jokingly told them that I'm their boyfriend until they're 30, but it wasn't so, that I was trying to prevent them from dating. It's just that I understood the pitfalls of falling for some idiot at 21, 22 years old. I knew the pitfalls of, getting charmed out of your brain at 16, that it could derail you for other things in life. And I didn't want them to have to go through trying to raise a baby at 21, 22, especially in this world right now. It's hard. It's difficult. Right now, I had somebody that was talking to me about, my oldest, who's like she says 23, and we was talking about, it was like, oh, she's still at home. I'm like, yeah, she in my basement. And they was like, she in your basement? I'm like, yeah. They're like, so when you gonna kick her out? I said, I'm not. And they said, why? I said, why do I want her to go out there and fail? Like, why do I want to encourage my child to go out into a world where she's not prepared for, just to come back? Why leave? Because knowing you ain't ready. Because my thing is I know how hard it was for me at 21 with a wife and a child on the way. Why would I do that to somebody who now I know is not ready and they single? And this world is even more dangerous and even more treacherous now than it was then. So it's like, why would I set my child up for failure?
One of the things that I tell my girls, and I've told them for years, and I wish someone had told me about dating. Dating is just like going into a store and looking around and shopping. We often pick up the cutest dress, but guess what? I got to try this dress on first and see if this dress fits. Now, I'm not going to cut the dress up. I ain't going to throw it in the trash because it doesn't fit. I'm going to hang it back because someone else might come along and think it's the best fit for them. And I'm going to go to the next rack and I'm going to pick up another dress. I'm shopping. When I have a boyfriend, I'm shopping. I'm shopping because I understand that a lot of our young ladies, that's my man. That's my man. And that's just your boyfriend. That's not your man. That's just your boyfriend. You're supposed to try to figure out if he is going to be your man. Now, when you get to the point, as my grandma and my mom used to say, when you courting,
totally different thing.
You got your dress on layaway. You done tried it out. It looked good on you. You just ain't ready to pay it. Pick it up. You ain't ready to do that yet. So layaway when you're courting. Then when you are ready, you pay off that layaway and you go and you pick it up so that you can take it home with you. That's what dating, courting, and then going into marriage.
And I want to say that we don't just say that because we say this, we've said it several times. I don't know about think that we just say this to our girls. We say this to our son too. We have a 14-year-old son, so we even though we've given a lot of the perspective of the daughters, we give it to him too. We tell him, ain't none of these women out here good enough for you, bro. Leave them all alone. And we reiterate to him that a woman can do just as much damage to your future, just like a young man can do just as much damage to our daughter's future. Because a lot of times, if you're not a really good judge of character, you're not going to understand who these people are. And we used to have an elder used to say, you need to see a person in 5 different states before you decide to commit to them. You have to see them happy, sad, grieving, angry, and there was another, I can't remember the 5th one, but it was like 5 different stages that he said that you should see somebody in prior to committing to them, so that you know how to react to them and how they react to certain things. Will you be able to see all 5 of them? Not always, because you might be dating somebody and they never lose anybody close enough to them to grieve, or certain things. So it's still one of those things that you want to consider. But we say the same thing to, I didn't want it to be one-sided where it seemed like all we said these things was to our daughters and we didn't say it to our son. But it's universal. It goes both ways.
Oh, this is so good. So I hear you, your advice is wait. That's so good. So what advice do you have for singles who desire godly marriage? And I know you said wait. You said don't get married.
You know what? This one here, when I told him last night, I said, "Oh, babe, we forgot that the marriage, the single ministry. We're gonna be speaking with them tomorrow morning or whatever." And so he get up this morning, he leaned across the counter. He said, "Now, what time are we gonna be discouraging them to get married?" I said, "That's not what I said."
Jokes.
Oh my goodness. I don't know. I don't even know. What was the question now?
What advice we would give to single people?
Oh boy. I guess that
one of the biggest things I would say would be careful. Vet anybody out 100%.
these days,
These
definitely.
days, you have to vet people because I said it before, and I know y'all probably heard it in dating circles and all this kind of stuff. Is we meet people's representative, meaning we're gonna meet the best version of themselves when you first meet them. And you kind of gotta let people get comfortable to the point where they let that guard down. Because you want to see who they are. Meet other people in their life. Not necessarily family, because family will lie to you. Family will tell you they're great. But meet other people who they've had in contact with. Like if you know where they worked or they used to work or they work, done something or they've been in some type of activity, go talk to some of them people. They know who they are. If they do business with certain people, go see what they like in business. See how they treat they because there's so many facets of people's lives other than just the dating stuff. And we get so focused on the dating stuff. Private eye, that's funny. I mean, in this day and age, I don't even doubt it. I promise you, I don't put it past it. It's just you have to be careful because, again, people put on that front as to who they are to you because they want you. And then when you get them, they're a whole different person behind closed doors. So you want to spend good quality time with people. If they have their own place, go visit them at their place surprisingly and see how they live. Are they nasty? Are they really neat? Do they, because so this is funny. In the beginning of our marriage, we had arguments over stuff like where does the plates go? Do you keep the ketchup in the refrigerator or in the cabinet? What side does forks? I mean, and you would be amazed.
And therefore, we have 2 doors of ketchup. Mine is in the cabinet. His is in the refrigerator.
You would be amazed at how many people get to fussing and fighting and break up over that kind of stuff. And it seems small and silly, but at the same time, those things can be big. But it's those things you want to find out about your person. You want to find out.
But I also want to make sure we say as well, not just them, but yourself.
Oh yeah.
Make sure you know who you are. Because we I ain't gonna say we pretend, but we just don't really truly take the time and be honest with ourselves of who we are. Know who you are. Know what you really like. Not because people say it's cool to like that, therefore I like it. Is that what you really like? Like what you like. Be true to yourself.
But know who you are.
And have fun with you. Do you take yourself on dates? Or you just, I ain't going out because I ain't got a man, or I ain't going out because I ain't got a woman. Do you share time with you? Do you take yourself to the movies and watch the movies that you like?
Would you want to date you? I mean, seriously, be honest. If you knew somebody that was in the same, that was wanting to date you, and you saw how they live, you saw what they do, you saw the intimate, deep down, dirty secrets that you have.
For true.
For real. Would you want to deal with that in a mate? And if you can't say no, can't say yes to that, then that means that you got some stuff you got to work on. That means that there's some stuff that you got to fix within yourself. Because if you don't want to deal with them, what makes you think some man or some woman is going to want to deal with your mess, your trauma? Because a lot of it is trauma. A lot of it is childhood trauma that we have not addressed, that you have not went and talked to anybody about, that you are, and you're going to go and dump that into a new person's lap, not knowing what trauma that they got, because they got some too. And they might not be in a position to accept your trauma. And then you ain't dealt with, so it's a lot. And so I would say definitely if you're single and you're thinking marriage,
Get a therapist.
Get a therapist for yourself.
Make sure you deal with your stuff.
And just because you're in therapy doesn't mean that it has to stop once you get married.
Nope.
Accept that part of you that we are all broken people. All of us are not perfect. We're not complete. You think you're a 10. You're really about a 6.5, but you think you're a 10. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but you think that you got it all together. You think that you're the perfect catch. You think that you literally Mr. GQ, Mrs. Ebony Cover. You think that, but don't think that the person that you dating ain't gonna gaslight you. Oh, they gonna tell you, baby, you fine. Oh, you this and the other, but deep down inside, it's something you do to them that they can't stand. I'm telling you now, it's something that you do that aggravates the mess out of them. I was watching TikTok this morning. This lady said, and I shared it with her, and I thought it was funny. Said marriage is not about can you love this person forever. It really is about picking the one whose aggravations you can live with for the rest of your life. So if this person aggravates you, is that what they do to aggravate you? Something you can live with the rest of your life? Because it's who they are. And we tend to when you're dating, you ignore those things because I'm so in love with you. I'm so in love with her. I'm not gonna tell her I don't like the crust coming out of her ears, and I don't like the way she laughs, and I don't like we ignore that when you're dating because that's what you want.
Sometimes we ignore it because we're afraid to lose them and we won't get someone else.
That too. But you have to be able to take the chance and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with that. Or I don't like that. And if you don't like it, you don't like it.
Yeah.
Nobody says you have to like every little thing that a person is in order to be compatible with them. She'll tell you there's certain things about me she can't stand. She ain't gonna say it out loud, but she do. See that look right there? Y'all see that? See? That let y'all know right now she got some stuff. But you want to be able to know whether or not the little things that those little quirks, can you deal with them? Can you deal with the way, he or she snores, the way they drink their water, the way they chew their food? Do they play with do they play with their feet? Do they play with their fingernails? Do they, do they flick their hair all the time? Do they have this little tick where all they do is tap stuff all the time? I mean, and you would not think how important those little things are until you're in a room and it's quiet. And all of a sudden you hear this tap, 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 tap. You're like, what is that? Oh, that's just me. And they bouncing their leg up against something. I mean, and they do it all the time. And oh God, I can't stand that. We're used to like grinding teeth. Or how you ever eat and you put your teeth hit the fork or the spoon. But it's just those things, and we don't think about those as single people. We don't think about those things as being things that can literally make or break a relationship. Because if you can't live with those things, man, life is gonna be hard when you commit. It's gonna be hard because every time they do that, all you gonna think about is, oh shit, stop doing that. Oh, that get on my nerves or whatever. And it can be really devastating to your relationship because you haven't planned on loving the annoying stuff. Now, granted, you've been in it as long as we have. When they stop doing the annoying stuff, you kind of miss it. You've been doing it for a while. Like, oh, you don't do that no more? Okay. All right. You change it.
This has been so rich. Is there any final piece of advice that you want to leave us with today?
Love yourself. Before you start trying to love somebody else, love yourself.
Yeah, I think that's the
you can't begin to get into a relationship and think that it's gonna last. We've been married 24 4 years,
Mm.
you not gonna get into a relationship and make it last that long without loving who you are.
Normalize loving yourself and getting, y'all know I'm gonna tell you about this mental health thing because it has
Yeah.
really changed my life. Normalize getting mental health therapy. And then once you're married, hey babe, we're going to the therapist. Do you have a therapist? Oh, you don't? Let's think about getting one. Mm-hmm. Something for your family, something because we all, just like we have a primary physician, we should have a
I think everybody in
primary
our house has therapy.
therapist.
Has therapy. I think everybody, the children, everybody has a therapy. Because again, we think we're good parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Our children might tell you something different. I mean, again, and it's not something that we do on purpose. It's just because again we were brought up with certain childhood trauma that we brought into our marriage, which then bore fruit, and we had children, and we put those same traumas and burdens on our kids. So that goes back to us. So that means that if we're not loving us and taking care of us, then we can't be the best for our mate or our kids. So why get into a relationship if you haven't even attempted to fix yourself?
That's right. Whether you think something wrong or not, see a therapist.
And guess what? Guarantee you something wrong. Something is wrong at you.
And if they say to you, I don't see anything wrong,
they lie and get another therapist.
No, they're not lying. You lying.
Oh yeah, that too.
You're not being honest with your therapist about what's going on in your life.
Be honest with yourself. If you don't do nothing else, be honest with yourself. And that goes back to what we were talking about when you get ready to get in a relationship with somebody. You know you. If you wouldn't date you, meaning you know all of your trifling whatever, because we all got some trifling stuff in our past. We all got some trifling stuff that we do. If anybody on this panel, anybody in this room saying that they don't, they lying to themselves. And right now, you know you got some stuff that you don't like, that you never dealt with or whatever. You got it. We all have. So don't sugarcoat yourself and thinking again that you're perfect and that you don't have it. Because if you do, your relationships are doomed to fail.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we got.
That's it.
Thank you all so much. This has been rich.